Welcome to the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast podcast, the podcast where we apply the science of mastering skills faster, stories of successful people, life hacking concepts, and other cool stuff to the sport of beach volleyball. If you're someone who is serious about getting better at the sport and wouldn't mind accelerating your learning curve and career with ideas that have been previously hard to find within the beach volleyball space, you'll probably like it in here. I'm Alex, the host of the podcast as well as the creator of the bigger Learn Beach Volleyball Fast project. Now, let's get started. What's up? It's Alex here. Welcome to the third episode of the podcast. In this episode, I'm having a long talk about a bunch of different topics with a guy called Johan Rininsland. He's the creator of the Swedish Beach Volleyball podcast. He's also a former elite player, and he is also the person that has the coaching courses. Basically, he teaches coaches how to coach in Sweden. So in reality, this episode was actually the first one that I ever recorded for the podcast. We recorded it about a year ago in April 2019, and it's almost April 2020 right now when I'm releasing this. And it was a little bit funny because I sent the raw episode to Johan a few weeks ago, and we both listened to it. And he was like, interesting. I've learned new stuff since since we recorded this, and I agree. I have too. Basically, we both realized that we have some deeper insights into some of the things we talk about, and this is for me. This is kind of why I like Johan. He is a person that is challenging himself, questioning himself, and basically is evolving as a coach because he understands that beach volleyball is a very, very, very deep subject and nobody really knows everything about beach volleyball. So therefore, as soon as you as a coach get stuck in that you think you know everything, then, well, basically that's kind of killing your possibilities to become a better coach. Anyway, that might sound like, okay, why should I listen to this episode? Because if you guys know things better now than before, this is a 2.5 hour long conversation that is split into 3 episodes, and there is a lot of topics in here that you have probably absolutely never thought of about how to become a better beach volleyball player. I believe it's going to be very valuable for you to listen to. It's going to put a lot of new thoughts in your head and a lot of new paths to go and discover. And if you would be someone that has actually thought about all of these things that we are talking about in this episode, then you should definitely send me a message, because then I definitely want to get you on the podcast, because you're going to be a very huge volley nerd in that case. So I hope you enjoy the episode. And now, without further ado, let's welcome Johan Rininsland. All right, so we got the first interview guest here for the Learn Beach Volleyball Fast podcast. We got Johan Rininsland, and you're actually, who are you? You have started the Swedish Beach Volleyball podcast.
Yes,
which is actually the reason I first started talking to you.
You were my first fan about a year and a half ago. That's how we got to know each other.
But that's not your only background. You have a lot of beach volleyball background.
Yeah, I started playing in 91, and before that I played a bunch of different sports. But as soon as I found volleyball and beach volleyball, I was really hooked. So I started in a small town here in Sweden, and had the fortune of finding people who practiced almost every day, and so I joined them, and we played volleyball during the fall, winter, and spring, and then beach volleyball all through summer. And
okay, so you played both indoor and beach.
Yeah,
in the beginning
for probably the first 10 years or so.
Okay, And you said you found immediately a group that played every day?
Yeah, not well. They all didn't play every day, but I found groups that did train, so I could train every day. When I was 15, 16, I trained, I think, 7 or 8 times a week.
Okay.
Already, so a couple of times with school activity and then with the club in the small town of Vänersborg. No, but I was the youngest at the time, and during the summer was really awesome because both guys and girls, and we had a big old military tent that we put in the back of the car, and we drove to the tournament. We played Saturday, partied Saturday night, all slept in the big tent together, and Sunday we played mixed tournaments, which was perfect for me.
Okay, I see. So how was it being the youngest in the group? Were you also the least skilled, or?
In the beginning, yeah, but I was quick. I was so serious almost right away that I sort of caught up with the others kind of fast because they weren't as serious as I was.
Okay, I see. Interesting. Where did that seriousness come from?
I think I've always had the mentality of trying to win at whatever I did, social games, any competition, sports or whatever. I always wanted to win.
Interesting. So just like ever since you were a kid?
Yeah. I hated to lose, and now as an adult, I mean, learning about myself through my kids and through my wife and through life, I've come to the realization that I don't have autism and I don't have ADHD, but I'm on the way towards both, which makes me kind of I mean, when I do something, I really do it, and I take it very seriously often.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So.
Interesting. So this makes me think of something which is not at all what I was planning to talk about, but that's why we're having this conversation. Did you feel like that mentality that you always wanted to win? Did it help you to win? So for the listeners, Johan's podcast here, he has done a lot of episodes on sports psychology, and that's actually one of the first reasons I reached out to him, because I was so happy that I had heard of Johan and I had heard of him being interested in sports psychology.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I heard that the person who's going to start the beach volleyball podcast in Sweden is interested in sports psychology, because there's a lot of people in this sport that are not interested in sports, even militantly against sports psychology sometimes.
Surprisingly, yes.
So I reached out to him, and I think I told you something like, I'm so happy that whoever is starting this thing actually is looking at that part of the game as well and is interested. So we had a few sports psychology discussions before. Yeah. And we might be going for another one here. Yeah. But because that's really interesting. I've seen, I think, the category of people that you talk about that just has this competitive drive naturally. Yeah. I was never one of those. Yeah. But did you feel like you would never need sports psychology?
Honestly, looking back, I really would have needed it, but I don't think I would have trained as hard as I did if I didn't have this. It probably drove me to compete during practice more than other people, but I also got more angry than anyone else, which was not so good for my development. I think my anger issues has been one of the biggest downsides of my career. I've been quite open about them after my career as well. Yeah. But yeah. And how down I would get after losing a match or going out in a tournament. That would devastate me for a week, maybe 2 weeks sometimes.
Really? That long?
Yeah. It was really bad.
Until you would get to play the next tournament, or just until who knows what?
It depends on what tournament it was. Some tournaments were only once a year. I mean, the big ones. Swedish champs, the Swedish grand finals, and losing out in the qualis somewhere. I hated it, and it hurt me really bad.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me if I say that sports psychology and psychology maybe in general, and maybe even personal development, it's kind of like people don't think that they need it, and some people are even more blocked towards it. I'm seeing. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm seeing maybe some people that are having actual competitive success by having that mentality that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That really going for the competition, really having that winner's mentality and really going for it, and becoming angry and really putting your heart and soul into the game.
Yeah.
I can sometimes feel that people have success with it.
Yeah.
And therefore you might even be even less curious about actually learning about sports psychology or the mental side of the sport, because you already feel like what you're doing is working.
There's a Norwegian sports psychology book. I can't remember the name of it now, but which was one of the first sports psychology books I read, and he talks about something he calls modus, which is sort of your mental state during competition or during training, and he talks about how to control and how to choose your own mental state, and how it can be very different from one athlete to another. So I think what you're going for is that some people actually play their best when they're angry. But for some people it destroys their chances of competing well.
Yeah.
And some people probably play their best when they're calm. Some people when they're excited. Some people, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I listened to an interview of Todd Rogers a while ago about how he always had the same warm-up before practice, before games, before everything, to control how he wanted to be during a game.
Just to get into the same routine every...
I guess.
So that it's like one game is not different from one of the arena game championship finals is not different from whatever Sunday.
I used to think that to be serious, you had to be angry when you failed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized this was actually only just a few years ago, when I had one of the best players I coached at the time who never got angry, and he sort of, we had a talk about it, and he sort of convinced me that he was serious, even though he laughed when he missed. For the Swedish listeners, they would know Alexander Herman showed me that you can be very serious even if you don't get angry when you miss.
That's amazing. And you as a coach did not believe that was a possibility?
No. I always, to be honest, I almost looked at him like, he can have a chance to be pretty good, but he will never be the best because he doesn't get angry. He's not serious enough. Yeah. And now he's probably, at least one of the top 3-4 players in Sweden.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's definitely something about... I've listened to some Signcast, and there's I think in there they've discussed that some people like this, when you play well, like you start screaming and giving high fives and whatnot, and some other people are more like just calm, like just stay focused all the time.
Yeah.
And how do I describe this? I have this feeling that I know from playing. Sometimes I get into this feeling. It's like everything is very quiet.
Yeah.
I'm hyper focused and hyper pumped inside, but I can just be calm in my body still.
Yeah.
And it's a really, it almost feels like a not a hot cup of coffee, but like a thermos, like a what's that in English?
I don't even know. The container to keep something warm.
Exactly. Maybe it's thermos in English. I'm not sure.
It could be.
But it's almost like a bubbling thing that just keeps. Yep. But it never releases. It never has the air release. You just like keep the momentum and like a warm feeling in your body that gives you energy.
Yeah. I mean, there are some really good examples of that are, for me, seem very obvious that some of the best players have actually either themselves or their coaches have thought about how to control their state of mind when they play. Look at, for example, the German women, the Dutch women, who always do the same hand clap, no matter if they lose a point or win a point. In comparison, you can look at, for example, the Polish guys who always hang their heads when they're losing a couple of points. So I think in the sports psychology department, if you can find out when you play your best and sort of take action to be there more often, that's a very big thing if you want to become the best. And for Alex, who I talked about before, for him it was to try and be happy no matter what. For him, that was the best. Okay,
so you basically just map out. You look at some past games and when did I play the best? What was my mood then? And then you just repeat that, figure out how to be that.
Yeah, and I mean for most people that's sort of being excited, somewhat positive, somewhat sort of expecting something cool to happen, I think. But maybe not for everyone. There's a great story that about another Alex that I coached, who's also one of the best Swedish players now, Alexander Annerstedt, who a couple of years ago had he didn't play as well as he wanted to, but he decided to always play with a big smile on his face. And he played his best beach volleyball when he did that, which was just what I was talking about, a way to control his mental state. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
I've been reading this book lately. It's a tough book to get through. It's called the Performance Cortex, I think.
Okay.
It's basically about how signals go in the brain, and it's brain science but applied on sports. And I think a lot of business on baseball, because baseball hitters, they have to take very quick decisions, so they've been studying them. Anyway, there was something in that book that alluded towards actually brain signals going faster when you have dopamine in your brain.
Yeah.
Like kind of like dopamine being like an oil.
Yep.
And then the actual electrical signals go faster.
And if I'm not mistaken, this has been studied as well. There's one study, I haven't read the study, but I've read someone who talked about the study, which is what I do. I don't have the time or the energy to read
this is.
But it was from a good source that they did a study on weightlifters. And if you picture a weightlifter in your mind, what they do when they lift a heavy weight, they sort of grunt and have an angry face on. But they told the weightlifters to smile when they lifted the weight, and apparently they increased the weight they could lift by 7-11%, something in that.
Just by smiling?
Just by smiling.
Okay, I need to try that at the gym next time.
So, I mean, I think there's something there. For sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm not necessarily smiling when I'm at the gym, but I practice this like same type of focus as when I play beach volleyball. Also when I'm at the gym, like really feel my body and feel what I'm doing and know what I'm doing and why, which gives me this sort of big enjoyment. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily smiling, but I really like, not like myself, not like my muscles, but I like my mental state when I'm at the gym. Yeah. I had a friend tell me once that I sort of, it's like a friend's friend, and he was like, I saw you at the gym, but you look so focused, so I couldn't, I didn't dare to come and talk to you.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's rocket science. I don't know if you've heard about the, it's a quite famous study. I used to talk about it in my coaches train when I coach other coaches.
When you train other coaches, which we're going to talk about.
And I used the example of the study where they had people going into job interviews, either take a power pose, think big ape protecting his family or whatever, or superwoman or something like that, and they would do that for I think 2 minutes before going into the job interview. And the other control group would sort of slouch together before going in. And the success rate, I mean, the job interviewers wouldn't know who had done what. But the amount of people in the power pose group getting actual job offers was much higher than the others. And that was 2 minutes before the interview. So imagine what that could do when you play beach volleyball. And I think it would be kind of natural to think that smiling would be in the same category. I mean, if you can raise the dopamine, lower the stress hormones by sort of pushing your shoulders back, chest out, head high. If you can do that, then doing it with a smile. I think it's not far-fetched to think it's the same that applies. So exactly. I think there's definitely something there. I usually talk about sort of, I have this very weird mental imagery going on where it's sort of a little bit about the Matrix, where you see two beach volleyball players on court and a small midget runs in with a tray. And on the tray there's two, you can choose if there's two pills, a la Matrix, or if there's two syringes, one blue one and one red one, and you can choose which one you want to take. And for me that's the same as power pose or head down, like some of the Polish guys. So the one makes you 20% more likely to win the next point, and the other one makes you 20% less likely to win the next point, and you have a choice.
I like it.
And I mean, it's kind of simple if you look at it that way.
You know what I would want to see? I would want to see someone do stats on that.
Yeah.
Like if you would actually be able to find any significance over time.
I would bet
point to point.
I would bet all my money, my house, probably my wife as well. Maybe I'll keep the wife out of it.
Yeah, keep her.
But money and house going in, for sure.
You think that? Yeah, I'm not gonna bet against you for sure. That would be a really interesting study to read. And it would honestly be quite easy to do.
I mean, when you look at a team playing, I sports bet on beach volleyball a bit, and when I open the app and look at my cell phone, I can barely see who the players are. But when I immediately see what team is winning and what team is losing based on their body language, I think there's something wrong. And it happens a lot.
Okay, so that's super interesting. Wait, what did you just say?
I think I bet my wife.
Oh yeah. So right, exactly what I was gonna say. Before we started this interview, we talked about the Xiamen tournament that's going on right now. No, it's Sunday today, so
Yeah.
it's been going on. And I asked you, like, because it was who won, and Mola and Sorum had. Where did they lose? Semis?
Third round, probably quarters or the one game before that. I think quarters maybe. Third or fourth round.
So anyway, what I told you was isn't beach volleyball kind of just a lottery because like anyone seems to be able to win. But now would you actually guess that whoever wins is?
No, but
I
mean, if you and Jonas went to that tournament, would you stand an equal chance to win?
No, of course not.
It's not a lottery.
No.
Lottery. The thing is, I think on probably more so on the men's side at the moment, there are so many good teams. But I mean, there's still only 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 that are really likely to win a big tournament. Then you have maybe 10 more teams that can win. But I could probably pick 3 or 4 teams and be fairly sure that they would win 75% of the tournaments this season. Even though in any given game they can lose for sure. The ball is round and everything, but it's so obvious that some teams have done the job from one season to the next. I mean, you can look at Krasilnikov and Stoyanovsky now, who won, and it's so apparent that they've done their work. Stoyanovsky's serve is better, his hand setting is better, his approach and his attack is better.
So he's actually changed his technique in the approach?
He still has a goofy approach.
Okay.
But I think for some reason he looks quicker and he looks maybe straighter in the air.
Okay.
I would say he's better at attacking, and I would be surprised if he hasn't spent a lot of time practicing hand setting.
Okay.
He did hand set a bit last year, but he got called a bit, and
Okay. So. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's always that, like, well, people say the sport is all mental, but it's I see it more like requirements. If you have something that's not there.
Yeah.
If you have no technique, then you're not gonna make it. If you have no mentality, you're not gonna make it. If you have no strategy, you're probably also not gonna make it.
Yeah. I mean, there are some really interesting things. Look at, for example, Kantor and Losiak, the Polish guys. They're awesome. They're freaking awesome players. But when they start losing, they hang their heads and they start losing even more. And if they play against Phil Dadhauser, they come out on court starting with their heads hanging low.
Okay.
So, I mean, sports psychology isn't developed amongst all teams.
No.
But some teams do it. And look at the German girls, for example. Laura Ludwig and Kira Wackenhorst. They had to be really, really strong mentally. Going through that season, winning everything. They had all eyes on them. They had injuries all the time. They had to be really, really strong. Yeah. And I'm 100% sure that they've worked on it.
Yeah.
So
I think if you go on the German team, if you go on their website, they have like the team.
Yeah.
Like it's the only thing I've seen so far that like a team has like their own sports psychologist, their own like physicist. I think
they have everything. They have a very professional team. It's the same team that helped Jonas Reckerman and Brink 4 years before
in the Olympics 2012.
I mean, another example. I talked to one of the Swedish guys who were I forget where, one of the Asian one-star tournaments now. And he said the Chinese guys, they beat everyone in practice. They are so tall, they jump so high, and they're so good. But when the tournament starts, they're like small kittens.
Really?
Yeah.
So
probably looking up to the big US, Brazilian, European names and seeing we can't beat them.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's also the culture thing. I think, yeah, well, let's not go there.
Yeah. Yeah, culture can be a really interesting topic. Actually, yeah, I think this is also a Sandcast thing. I think Triborn said once that once he played on a big tournament and he felt like he was able to play there, then he felt like he belonged there.
Yeah.
And that like changed for the future. Like, don't quote me on that,
Yeah.
but I'm starting to feel that same type of effect myself, like as I'm getting better, as I'm getting to play with better people. And like once I've played with a group of people that before felt unreachable, but I've played like a set or whatever, king or whatever, or Paradise, like what's that called, King of the Court, and I feel like I can survive, I feel like I can win, I feel like I actually sometimes win or have the chance to win, then all of a sudden I like the confidence just jumps up.
I mean, I watched quite a lot of old AVP footage as well, which is really, really cool. I mean, the production and the players and the spectacle was awesome. But I just watched a couple of weeks ago, Erik von Oymoana played the tournament after he won his first one. And the commentators were always commenting that he looked so much more confident after his win the weekend before, and how much better he was playing.
Yeah, that's definitely a mental skill. But do you think you can develop that mental skill without actually winning? Like, is it something that you have to be able to experience first? Like, go and win something and then you can start believing that you can win something, or can you? I
think you can train it for sure, but I'm not so sure we have the it's easier to go find a coach who helps you with hand setting, for example. If you're a young beach volleyball player, you can find a coach who can help you with hand setting and what technique to use and how to move your feet and whatever. But to find someone who can show you what steps to take to learn to win, it's not as obvious, I think.
Yeah.
But for sure, I think it can be taught and learned.
Yeah. Have you read what is it? Psycho-Cybernetics?
No.
It's basically anyone should read that book. Like it's definitely one of the more influential books I read. It's basically, well, kind of like a lot of other books, talks about just like your beliefs about yourself and your self-image, like reprogramming what you believe you are, because then it talks about, it has many ways to describe it, but like a thermostat, like if your thermostat is put on 20 degrees Celsius, like that's what it's gonna make your room to be, whether it's colder or warmer. But sort of like you believe I belong here, and that's where you're gonna belong. Like your body's just gonna know that what you actually truly believe about yourself, and then it's gonna make that happen.
I read something along those lines a while ago. There's a lot of talk about results, outcome goals, process goals, and people talk about how you have to set both, but focus on the process goals. But I actually read about the third one, which was identity goals, which was sort of what you're talking about. That you decide you wanna win the Olympics in beach volleyball, so you decide to start acting like an Olympic gold medalist. I was my wife and I back then she was my girlfriend. We were in Manly, Australia for a while, and we were coached by Kerry Pothurst for a while. And when we got invited back to her place to have dinner, she showed us around, and she told us about how they had prepared before they won the Olympics her and Nat Cook in 2000. And amongst others, she had huge posters of herself winning that gold on the wall, one in the ceiling, I think, even.
Like at home?
Yeah, at home. But she also told us about how she had, I'm not sure if she had hung an actual gold medal or if she had painted one on her mirror. So that every morning, every night, she would see herself with the medal around her neck. And they had a lot of those tricks. I mean, leading up to the Olympics, they weren't even top 5 in the world. They had never won on the world tour. So they did something right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it takes going to those kind of ridiculous measures, like who the fuck finds a gold medal on your mirror? Yeah. But you know, if you do it and you see it every morning and you actually like, why is this gold medal here? Maybe it's because I should believe in this.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of affirmations, like talking to yourself, telling yourself what you can do and what you are and stuff. So I actually tried. I don't know how interesting this is for whoever is listening, but a couple of years ago, I was part of starting a group in Gothenburg here with 11 guys.
Training group?
Yeah, training group.
For beach volleyball?
For beach volleyball,
yes.
Yeah. Guys who already were training really hard and they wanted to take it to the next level. They wanted to basically start the road to the world tour. Mm-hmm. And we actually did yoga twice a week, which was cool. They bought it and we did it. And I also had them talking to the mirror after we were in the gym doing those yoga sessions, saying, I am the king, I am the best, stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm not so sure everyone bought that. But they did it. And I think that stuff is awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There's a YouTube clip of a dad with this little girl. They do this routine in the morning. I don't know, maybe I can link it to you if someone wants to watch it. Yeah. I think it's awesome. He tells her, I am strong, and she repeats, I'm not worth more than anyone else. I'm worthy, I'm this and that. And I think it's really good.
Okay, interesting. So he basically guides her through a bunch of that makes me remember a podcast I listened to where,
because I mean, can I just say, because what we usually do as humans is talk ourselves down. We tell ourselves what we do bad, when we go wrong and stuff like that. So I think this sort of balances it out a little bit. So you just get a more healthy balance. Even though you might go to ridiculous measures, what happens in your brain is in reality maybe a sort of a balance. I mean, say what you want about Tony Robbins, but he has had a big impact on sports psychology and everything around it.
I watched him today. He's
one of the big things he says is you don't have to see everything positive, but don't see it for worse than it actually is. And I think that was something I read a number of years ago, and it really stuck with me, because I think that's the reason why this whole positivism has gotten such a bad rep.
Because people say, oh, you can't just think positive.
Yeah, but then at least don't see it worse than it is. And once you start getting that, really, I've drilled this into my head. I've actually trained this quite hard. And now when I see people acting the way people act, it's kind of ridiculous how they make small things much worse than they than they are.
Yeah.
And on the beach volleyball court,
same there.
Yeah.
My version of that theory is, I think everyone can learn to see more positively and more possibilities than pretty much anyone does. Like you can the more you understand the depth of a thing and that there's sub-levels to everything, the more basically that gives you more paths you can walk down. This is getting a little bit philosophical, but basically if let's say beach volleyball is a subject, and the more you know about beach volleyball, the more sub-subjects you know. Like there's hand setting, there's passing, there's sports psychology, there's strategy, there's who knows what, knowing people. And the more of those you know, and then under those you also know more levels. So it becomes this like exponential kind of tree. Basically, the more of those you know, the more possibilities for success you can see, because the more ways for you to grow you can see, which means that all of a sudden, I think pessimism comes sometimes from not being able to see ways forward. But the more ways you have access to, the more possibilities you have to look positively at something and see more possibilities. So I think that's like part of how I see it. And then also all the negative things, don't suppress them, don't ignore them, look at them, see what they are, learn lessons from them. As soon as you learn lessons from them, you actually are one step ahead than you were yesterday. Because now you're actually smarter than you were yesterday, which now all of a sudden is a fucking positive thing. Which means that you see even more possibilities for the future. And then you continue, and then it just grows and grows and grows and grows, and you get faster and faster. That's sort of how, but that's sort of how I see this whole Tony Robbins. It's so funny. I watched Tony Robbins today.
It's I tried to get the now famous Mark Burek to come work for us for our club in Gothenburg a couple of years ago. And it didn't work out in the end, but he was there for a while and we trained a bit together, and I forget what it was, but he had some kind of injury, if it was his back or his knee or something. So it was just serve, receive, set, and standing shots. That's all we did. And it was so different from how the Swedish mentality of training was. Because every time he hit his short cutty well, he would go, "Yeah, did you see that fucking shot, man?" And he would raise his arms, and I was like, "What the hell is he doing?" And then I thought about who was crazy. Was it me going? Every time I did a great shot, I was like, "Yeah, that's to be expected. That's what I should do." And when I missed, I was like, "Fuck, that was the worst ever." So which one do we want to reinforce?
Have you heard Kjell Enerhagen?
Yeah. He's my house god.
So I need to take his theory now. You heard, so Kjell Enerhagen is a Swedish personal development guy. And I listened to him in a Swedish personal development podcast. Basically he said there's this theory which like whatever you put emotional weight into, any memory that you put emotional weight into gets more burnt into your like system and your brain. So the example for this is pretty much everyone remembers the exact spot where they stood when they heard about the 9/11, the Twin Towers, terrorist attack. So if that's true, then that memories get burnt harder, the more emotional energy you put into it, whether it's good or bad, because we also remember the best things that ever happened to us. Basically, that's what he said. Most people say when something goes well, you go like, whatever, that's expected. But when it goes to hell, then you get angry and you put a lot of emotional energy into it. And if then movements in sports work anything like memories, that basically means that you're giving your brain signals that remember all this bad shit that you're doing and forget about all the good. Good stuff.
I think Kjell has a story about two tennis players. I think the one of them is Björn Borg, and the other one a Swedish player who was the same age as Björn, and probably even better when they were young. But every time they went to do serve training, he would focus on his 1 out of 10 misses, He would scream and yell and get angry while Björn would keep ripping his serves and just focus on the good ones and just forget about the bad ones. And it only strengthens the story that we don't know the name of the other tennis player now, but everyone knows Björn Borg.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right.
I mean, Zlatan is a big name everywhere now. So, I mean, he's the perfect example of this. When he misses, it's always and when he does something great, that's what Zlatan does.
Exactly. Yeah. So he actually does that. I haven't watched him much.
Zlatan is really interesting from a sports psychology perspective, I think.
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, he's the cockiest guy around, but he does it in a sort of funny way. But he always takes over wherever he comes.
Okay.
I don't know if we should dive into Zlatan.
No, maybe not. But that's interesting. Yeah, it's the one person that everybody around the world knows.
And I mean, watch a couple of interviews. Some people probably hate Zlatan, but because he is cocky, but you can tell that he always has a sort of smile, a sly smile doing it. And I think the attitude of I don't miss, Zlatan never misses. It's almost a little bit like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But for sports psychology, the way Zlatan does it, it works.
Yeah. So in a way, he probably knows that he's kind of being cocky or like a little bit obnoxious, but it's kind of funny that he is that.
Yeah, and I think it strengthens him because he does exactly what we talked about. He makes sure that he remembers all the good things he does.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because I know it's actually very natural, I think, to do that in sort of, for example, if you play a no-jump game. So you don't play beach volleyball for real, but you play like a warm-up game, and you do something amazing. Yeah. It's really easy, actually, at least for me, to be like, fuck you guys, you can't take that. Yep. So there it's actually very natural to do that. When it's like sort of non-serious whatever game. But we should bring that into the real game too.
And I think there's guys that do it naturally, and I think you could watch them and train to do it in a way that works for you.
Exactly. Let's go one more place in the sports psychology. Right. I have my paper here with a bunch of questions, and we've probably gone for quite a while already, but I'm in no hurry. You mentioned the Polish guys. And they're slouching their head. And we also mentioned culture before, but maybe we can go a little bit into culture.
Sure.
Did you see the Latvian players here in Gothenburg on the One Star? Last weekend?
I didn't see them play now. No, I didn't see them play now.
You didn't? Okay. No. Interesting. Because let's see if you at all recognize this, and if it doesn't make any sense, we just skip it or delete it from the podcast or whatever. I think it's Samoilov's brother that played here. Yeah.
No, Smedins.
Smedins' brother.
Tom Smedins.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny because when they showed up in the semifinals on Sunday, for me it felt like they played the Turkish guys. And for me, it felt like the Latvian guys had been like having a few beers as a preparation. And the other guys felt like they had been like meditating and doing yoga and like drinking healthy drinks. Because they like came and they were just like energetic and happy and looked healthy. Like their faces looked healthy. And that's a weird description, but that's how I saw it. And they started playing. And it was like the Latvians were like warming up, like they were joking. They were just like, hitting some balls in the net and like laughing at each other. Kind of like very, maybe arrogantly. I don't know if that's the right word. Anyway, when they started playing, the Turkish people, the Turkish guys won the first set.
Yeah.
And you could see that the Latvians were just like slow and, things weren't working. But the interesting thing was that, so the Latvians actually ended up winning the whole thing. And they picked up some sort of, I'm Finnish originally. So I have a little hint of this Eastern mentality in me from since I was grown up. But it was almost like, I would want to call that, they had this like Eastern European hungoverness / discipline / we can just figure this shit out kind of confidence, and they actually turned the whole thing around and won. And it feels like they have this this culture where, because it was like every other ball they were screaming at each other, like I don't know what they were saying, but this set sucked or whatever, and then the other ball they were like laughing. And it was just back and forth. It was a really interesting thing to just watch and see like unfold in front of your eyes, like how their mentality worked in the game. Because it was somehow they just came to the court and trusted that they'll figure it out, and they did.
There's a lot of layers in this. I mean, if they do the same in training, I think that's going to make them very much worse in training. So I mean, if you show up to your trainings doing that, and then you do your drills like that, I honestly don't see you in the long run becoming as good as the more serious Turkish guys in this example. So I mean, it's problematic because you have people from all over the spectrum who succeed. The way I try to, there's this British guy, the marginal gains guy. I forget his name. Brailsford, Dave Brailsford, I think his name is. He took over the British cycling team before the London Olympics a couple of years before. He got all the money in the world, and his philosophy was to look at everything, every little detail, and see if they could make a screw 1% lighter to make the bikes go faster. If they famously brought their own pillows and mattresses when they went to different hotels to sleep 1% better. And his philosophy was, we look at all these small things, sort of, can it make the bike go faster that specific day? And if so, we'll try to make it 1% better. And he called this the marginal gains method. And I mean, if you look at it that way, I think it's safe to say that the Turkish way in your example is the one that will make the bikes go faster. And I mean, there have been some famous cases of people on the world tour. If you go to the national tours, I'm sure it's the same. If you look at the famous American brothers, bearded brothers, they party. But the way I look at it is, if you take 1,000 teams that party and 1,000 teams that don't party, and you give them a long time to develop as beach volleyball players, in what group will you have more better players, more successful players? I mean, for one individual, sure, you can party and probably have great success. You can skip mental training. You can skip a lot of things. You can skip leg day. But if you have 1,000 players over 10 or 20 years, the group with the people who lift weights, don't party, and do sports psychology will have a better chance.
I agree with you there. Hey, it's Alex here again. So this thing that me and Johan are talking about here is, according to me, a very interesting topic, and it's actually one of the topics that I have myself gained more experience and understanding in during the last year since we recorded this episode. So I thought I would actually end this episode with sharing some of those insights. And before I do that, to be fair to Johan, in what will be the start of next episode, he does allude to learning how to enjoy the things you need to do to become a better beach volleyball player. But I'm basically gonna do a deeper dive into that right now. So these ideas are somewhat fresh in my mind. They're basically, I just lived for a few months in Bali, the island of Bali in Indonesia, where I lived a somewhat different life from what most people live in Western countries, which allowed a lot of exploring of my mind and reality and whatnot, which was really interesting. And so just take these as ideas that might lead to something. Maybe one day I'll understand this even better, whatnot. But at least it's like a Kickstarter of something that I know is rarely talked about. So what I think is that the human mind basically enjoys a lot being freed from social codes and like shoulds. So what I mean with that is you might have, as a kid maybe, or maybe as an adult, found yourself in a situation where something is hilariously funny and you're not allowed to really laugh. But you're in this situation with your friend, and like you guys just catch each other's eyes, and you both know that you should not laugh right now, but like you just can't stop yourself, and you just start like absolutely bursting out in laughter in the situation where you absolutely should not. So here, for example, there's a social code that you should not laugh, but you do laugh, and it's not only funny because you're laughing, it's also like very freeing. Let me call for let's say your soul to do this in this instance, because you're somehow like breaking the social code, and it's just like a very, very memorable and strong experience for you. Another example of this is, at least I have had this, maybe you have too. I've seen people back in the days, I've been walking down the street and someone comes on the street as well, like singing, walking or biking or whatever, and they're absolutely singing their soul out. It might sound even bad, nobody knows, but they are just out on the street where people can hear them, and they're just singing fully. And at least my mind went like, this is interesting. Like, what is this person doing? Why are they singing so fully, and they don't care about how silly they look or how bad they sound or how embarrassing it is for them? And I think some people, I think there's 3 categories in how to interpret when something like this happens. Either you go like, this person is an idiot, and you completely ignore it, or you're like me, you think this is really funny, like, but you kind of get curious, like, what is it in that person that lets them do that without, because apparently they're not feeling bad about it. And then there's the 3rd category, which is, oh yeah, I know how to do that, and I do it myself. Anyway, also playing beach volleyball at the best. Some people have memories of when they played beach volleyball really, really, really good. And I think this is also like a similar experience where you're not thinking of things, you're not thinking about who's watching you, you're not thinking about what you should do, you just play, and you're like experiencing the game at its fullest. And so anyway, I think the human mind feels very good when we have these sorts of experiences. And why I think, because what alcohol does to us, because the conversation was about alcohol, what alcohol does to us is that it kind of is a drug that lets us break these like inner barriers that we have. It lets us break these, like, whether they're social codes or they're like inhibiting beliefs that we have on ourselves. Like, alcohol makes people, for example, dare to have conversations that they don't dare to have normally. Why do we not dare to have these conversations normally? There's something within us, there's some sort of rule that we have created for ourselves where it's like, no, I can't go up to this girl and talk to her. Like, I'm too nervous, it's too wrong, whatever. And for whatever reason, when people drink alcohol, like, those rules kind of disappear. And this is a little bit similar to the guy singing on the street. He just doesn't care. Um, so so that's why I actually think it's kind of good to, in some instances, to drink alcohol, because I do believe that if you have this dry cut like experience of life where you're just very, very methodical and you never experience these like experiences which I would want to call like a full living experience or a soulful experience or whatever, then I think life becomes sort of stale and dry, and we probably, this is my guess, we're probably not as good beach volleyball players if we do that. And I think that's sort of why people kind of want to like have this pause and have a drink and and be a little bit rebellious. So, okay, how does this tie to Bali? For me, one gateway to these sorts of experiences where I don't care about what people think about me, where I can express myself fully, has been dancing. Because I did breakdancing for a year, I think, when I was 12 or something. So I had some like basic dance moves, and then when I grew up, I started drinking, and I usually went to parties where dancing was a part of the experience. And then just over the years, I've just like liked dancing more and more and more and more. I know a lot of people have inhibitions to dancing, and they have these inner barriers, like they're like, no, I can't dance, people are gonna look at me, I'm gonna look silly, whatever. I'm fortunate to not have had those. Like, dancing is my way to just like be myself, and I absolutely completely love it. And that has honestly been one of the big reasons why I have been drinking in my life, because I enjoy it so much, and it's like the only place I've known where to go dancing is at the clubs and various dance floors. Anyway, so I went to Bali, and I've been into meditation and stuff before, because I mean, through sports psychology and through volleyball. But I had this like, I had like a personal philosophy that I started living by a year or two ago, which was to try to never judge anything before I know about it more. So we humans, we have like, when we see something, when we see someone do something, whatever it might be, like it might be yoga, and we go like, that's stupid, like that looks boring, and that can't be good. And or we hear about like the benefits of meditation or sports psychology or maybe hand setting or whatever it might be, and every now and then we go like, that, you know, our minds make up all these reasons for why we should not try it, and then we like find a reason that we can logically tell ourselves that, okay, I should not try this because it's not worth my time. I already know what I'm doing and it works, and you know, so I'll just continue with that. Anyway, I adapted this personal philosophy that I will not judge. I will be open-minded. I will be trying to be radically open-minded to like anything. So Bali has a lot of yoga and like meditation and all these like sorts of spiritual practices, if you want to call them that. And one thing I had heard about maybe a year ago was something called ecstatic dance. And I never really knew what it was, but one morning my friend in Bali, my neighbor, she was like, I'm gonna go to a yoga class, and then there's an ecstatic dance afterwards. And it was a type of yoga that I had wanted to try for a long time, but hadn't. And I also was curious about the ecstatic dance. So I was like, okay, this is my morning to just be like open-minded. Let's just go for it and see what happens. And what happened was, I got to this. Well, the yoga class was good at first, and then the ecstatic dance started. And basically, the rules of the ecstatic dance was that we are all here to express ourselves. No one should judge each other. You're allowed to do whatever you feel like doing. and it's not a sexual dance floor, so it was a dance floor, but like you're not supposed to find a partner or be sexual or anything. It's really just about dancing. And what I realized was that when you have a dance floor where more than half of the people get into this state that I talked about, this freeing of social codes type of state, where they're literally just dancing and having the time of their life, when like about more than half of the dance floor has that feeling, it becomes so incredibly contagious that like everybody on the dance floor gets drawn into it. And like the word ecstatic like really started making sense. Like it was an amazing experience where I was literally just dancing the heart out of myself, and like I don't know, it was just amazing. So I don't need to talk much about that, but basically what I realized afterwards was that this ecstatic dance and a lot of other of these like spiritual practices in a way are a little bit like learning to be drunk but you're sober. It's learning to fully express yourself without the help of alcohol. It's just getting better and better and better at having these experiences. One little quick thing that I read about meditation maybe a couple years ago was it was some sort of guide on how to meditate and like questions about it. And the question was, do I need to do the chanting, the alms, and all the things that people make fun of when they like want to ridicule people that meditate. I hope you know what I mean. Like people chant in together, like Om, whatever. And the answer to that was no, you don't need to do that to meditate. But after a while, you will. When you realize the power of it. So chanting is kind of the same. It's also something that feels completely ridiculous at first. If you come from a Western country, you have all these like blocks within yourself that want to inhibit you from doing them. But once you just let go of those blocks and you're in a group and you make this beautiful sound together, and you just strip yourself out of these social codes that makes you think how ridiculous you look, and you just feel like the togetherness of the people that you're doing it with, it just becomes like another learning how to be drunk but you're sober type of experience. So, okay, I rambled enough about this now. I just wanted to share this because I think there's something to this. I agree with Johan that it's healthier to not drink alcohol. I do think that the humans need these soulful experiences, and I might think that doing that through alcohol is better than not doing it at all. But I also want to say that I do think nowadays that it's possible to learn to be drunk sober, and that could be the ultimate win. That's where you get both. That's where you're healthy with your body, but you still have these soulful experiences, which makes you like connect to people. Because before I had two reasons to be drunk, which was to meet people and be social and have conversations with people and to dance. And since this morning in Bali, when I went to this ecstatic dance, I realized I got that sober, and I met people and I had really interesting conversations. So after that moment, like all my need to drink alcohol was just vanished, because I had a place where I could find exactly the same things as I wanted to get from alcohol, but higher quality. It was cheaper and it's healthier. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm not going to say that I will never drink in Bali again. Maybe I will someday. But like after that morning, I didn't drink anymore in Bali because there was just no reason to do that. I found everything I wanted from drinking somewhere else in a more healthy and sober way. So just wanted to mention this because I know how our human minds work. Like someone had mentioned ecstatic dance for me once, and I was like, oh, interesting, whatever. Then someone mentions again, and you're like, okay, I've already heard about this once. And then the third time or fourth time, maybe you're like, okay, maybe I'll go check this out. So maybe this is the first time that you have heard about these sort of thoughts. You might not buy into what I'm saying here yet. Maybe you will someday. I don't really care. But maybe I think ecstatic dances are going to get bigger and bigger in the world. So maybe in a year you'll see one somewhere, and maybe you'll remember my experience, and maybe you'll try it, and who knows what that could lead to. And as I said, this is a somewhat new experience for me. These are new thoughts, and I'm constantly learning myself. Maybe in a year I will think something else. Maybe I will understand this even better. Maybe in 10 years I wouldn't have said what I'm saying now. But at least now you're introduced to the topic. All right. See you in the next episode where we continue listening to Johan